Hey, this is Richard Casper. I'm here with my co-founder Kevin McCarty.
Hello.
We're We Should Write Sometime. We're the team, the big two. We're here with Brian Davis, writer of One Hell of an Amen and multiple other songs. You have a new single, right, with another artist?
Yeah, we just got a Lee Brice single.
That's what I'm
talking
about.
Excited about. So yeah. Should be good.
So with a lot of we get asked tons of questions. We always talk a lot about first co-writes, but I have a question that a lot of people don't talk about. But it's like, from One Hell of an Amen to this newest single, were there success stories in between it that kind of fell? Like, what is that struggle? Most people are like, "Oh, I'm a number one songwriter now. I'm gonna just be hammering these out." But people don't understand that part of the industry. So could you explain any part of that?
Yeah. So. I actually had several of those. Matter of fact, Brantley Gilbert and I, the guy that cut the song you're talking about and singled it. So we've had probably 18 songs recorded together. Like he and I have written together. So, but the last record called Fire and Brimstone, we had the first single, and he actually called myself and other co-writer Justin Weaver and said, "Hey, dude, I want to let you guys know, man, you guys got the first single off the new record," and so we're all excited about it. And then 2 weeks later, he calls back, and I've never heard Brantley more mad than he was when this went down. But he was like, "Man, they changed things up. I'm so sorry. I don't do business this way. You guys know this." And I'm like, "Man, you don't have to apologize to me, brother. We've been boys for a long time." But that was like one of those moments where you dig and you fight and you store up song ideas and you get on the buses and you go and you're away from your family, but for the right reasons, and then you come back and you're like, "Okay, man, we got it. We got the single," and that's what really all of us are after. And then just to find out that it gets changed by the label, which is a common occurrence. It's not something. So you just learn to not, until it's on the radio or until it's it's on the digital platforms and out. Then it's just a possibility still. So,
you hear stories. People will legitimately have a song on hold by an artist for a year, and then they just drop it. But the whole year, everyone knows they have a song on hold.
Yep.
I feel like it's like what not to really do, because you want to. The lesson out of this is legitimately like, until it happens, it comes to fruition. It's so bad. One of the writers that we work with a lot said he got to the point where he was going to the concert where they were going to play his song. Oh. The artist was, and then they were like, "Hey, by the way, this didn't end up being on the album." And then obviously, that's all the way up to the point to where you got the tickets. You're going to the show to see him debut it and talk about it on the album, and it doesn't go through.
Yep, that happens, man.
It's crazy. This industry, man. But let's.
So what about going back when you first started songwriting? How long was it when you first were like, "This is going to be my career path, what I'm going to do," to getting kind of your first introduction to a publisher and how that conversation went?
Kind of crazy. So I'm a Carolina boy originally, so I grew up playing honky tonks back where I'm from, and so I've always loved music, but I also early on I loved the music that we were covering, but I was like, I want my own music. I want to be able to write my own songs. And so I started just figuring it out. And a lot of it comes down to, I think, in anything that you want to be successful in, if you find somebody who already is successful and then you kind of reverse engineer their success, then you kind of have a roadmap to where you want to go. And so that's a policy that it's an MO I operate with on a regular basis. And so coming to town, I knew I wasn't the best by no means, but I've also always had a learner's mentality. So I wanted to get in the room with guys who know and just absorb it all. And a lot of times in that process, like I mentioned a minute ago, like I'll keep like a recorded, I just record in my head, like as an idea is going down and what's said in the room, and then why that line wins out. And I will go back when I get the song's written, I'll go back home and I'll just kind of reverse engineer that and go, well, I was thinking this at the time that this more experienced songwriter brought this line to the table. And so it just helped me to better know where to look for the storyline to go and things like that. So, but my first publishing deal was literally, I was working at I was cleaning horse stalls down in Brentwood. And I had a bunch of friends in town, and all of us were digging and trying to figure it out together. And occasionally I could get in rooms with, just based on just a lot of that, the humility and the humbleness of like, "Hey, I really want to learn this." And so a lot of guys actually will go, "Hey, man, let me look back and grab you and pull you up a little bit, give you some advice." You can't give them the keys to a Corvette. You got to give them, first you're in an old beater farm truck, and you move your way up. But But that was the case. But anyway, so I was at this place cleaning horse stalls, and Ralph Murphy over at ASCAP, he and I had met several times. He knew how motivated I was, and so I love Ralph, but he was like, he met Melanie Howard, who is Harlan Howard's wife, and he was like, "Oh, you love horses? This writer buddy of mine loves horses." He didn't really color it like it really was. I loved horses, but I didn't love what I was doing while I was with the horses. As I come in smelling like horse crap all the time, but I'm not too good to do anything. But that was my first deal. Was it connected in that way? It was a buddy of mine, or the guy over at ASCAP, Ralph Murphy, turning one commonality into get me into the door with Melanie. That meeting that day happened to be Harlan Howard joining us, which, if you guys don't know who Harlan Howard is, man, you look him up. He's by far the best that's ever been in this business. But so to sit in front of him, and he say to me, "What you got, son?" And all of us have the one song, so I played the one song that I believed over anything else I'd written. And he sat back in his chair and he said, "What else you got, son?" And I went, "Oh, this is going to be a bad meeting." And so, long story long, he did that 4 times. And after the 4th time, he said, "Do you want a deal here, son?" And I said, "Yes, sir, I do." And he leaned over to Melanie and said, "Put the contracts together." And that was kind of the start of it. And then a lot of doors started opening after that, because when you have an endorsement from a guy like that, it does change the game for you. But it doesn't. It gets you in the room, but you still have to bring it when you get in the room. And that's the other side of that fence, man. So that's when like idea management and and like guitar, all the things that kind of make a song. That's when that stuff really starts to matter. Because I do a lot of, like, even today I write a lot. I pretty much write with artists for the most part only nowadays. But I also still, before I get in the room with them, I'll look at my calendar a week out. And I'll know, okay, I have this artist on Monday, this one on Tuesday, this one Wednesday, and this one Thursday. And then I will go ahead and look back through content they've covered. I'll look through their beat per minute they like, that they gravitate toward for their hits. I'll look at progressions that they seem to be like, that's my jams. So I do a lot of due diligence way before I get in the room, because I think, obviously, we all know this. Y'all are military. Y'all know this very well. But it's like, success is preparedness meeting opportunity every time. And so when you have that and you think like that, and I'm very calculated about a lot of that stuff and methodical about how I operate. And so I don't bring redundancy to a room with an artist. I always just go, "Hey man, this is what you did last time. I see what you've covered. Your body work is this." And then I look at it and I go, and for me, how can I add to, how can I serve this artist in this room, in this moment, with my talents to help him get where he or she needs to go, that kind of thing. So I always think of it from a servant mentality as well. But
what was your other question?
So yeah, building off that too, that's what I love about you. I've written with a ton of songwriters in town. You could see the ones who treat this like a job, because it is a job. Yeah. There's a lot of people who come to town with just such raw talent, but then they come in these rooms and they're not prepared. They don't have a song prepared. That's what another writer that we talk about a lot, Kelsey Kulick, that's what I love about her, and I know she's going to be successful because she comes in so prepared. She was like, she does what you do. She looks back at them. She already has some stuff, like knowing that where the artist sings, like what kind of stuff do they sing. Being prepared goes so much further, and then networking. So if you could treat songwriting like a job, and you can network in the right ways, you're going to be very successful in this town.
So I think that's a good question, or good lead into the great story getting into the how you got your first pub deal. But I think it's even what I'm interested is, like, when you first got to town, how did you find your first group of guys or girls that write?
That's always interesting.
So, and this may not be the...
this
is how I operate.
Whatever your story is.
I rolled to town, they flocked to me.
No, not at all. It was not that way at all. But I can say I'm a God guy, and so I always trust God in all this, man. And so for me, how I know how I know it's always God is that I can't explain away things, right? So I say that to say I got to town. And there's a backstory that we don't have time for this today, but there's a backstory here that leads up to this. But so I come to town. I don't have a lot of money. I've got just a lot of big dreams. Is really where it landed. But at the time, the Bluebird on Monday nights was the spot, because everybody went, and then Barbara would basically kind of listen, and you could audition for kind of sort of just your songs, and so it's always slam packed. I got there and I walk in and there's no seat. There's one seat in the whole entire room, and this guy is sitting and it's empty. It's right beside him, and I'm like, hey man, you care if I sit down? And he's like, no man, come on, sit. And we didn't really speak. That was as far as that went. And then the next, like I was on the road again for a couple of Mondays. I came back, and the exact same situation. True story. Same seat, same dude, was empty. Like I go, okay, man. So I sit down and we start talking this time, and like, what are you? I'm trying to write songs. Me too. Blah blah blah. Went back and forth. Well, it turns out this guy became one of my best friends in town, but he was working at CMA, and so at CMA Foundation. So basically, he had the keys to the kingdom for the most part, as far as like the who of who's kind of thing and all that. So he was there for a while, and it kind of gave us a perspective and gave a little bit of like gateway stuff or keys to some stuff. But then he left there and he went over to Fame Publishing. When he got to Fame Publishing, he was he did basically catalog. That's what he did. He was a tape copy guy. And so in that regard, they gave him the keys to the publishing house. And so what we started doing was, we started basically just pretending that, like, when they closed the doors, we would open the door and we'd go up and we'd write in the evenings. Like, that was like, and we just kind of operated like we were signed there, and we did that whole deal, and our songs started getting better, and we started testing them on because the pluggers there, Chris Lacey, who is now over at Warner Brothers Records, and several other people that were pluggers there, they saw us in and out a lot, and they were like, maybe they just took pity on us, I don't know. They were like, man, we'll listen to what you guys are doing. And so they would critique us, and then we got to the point where they trusted us enough to kind of start pushing some stuff out for us, and then at the same time doing a ton of writers' nights, man. That was another big piece of it, was going out and just, it's almost like MMA of songwriting, because you walk out and you're like, is my song better than your song?
Yeah.
And the people get to decide, at Bluebird or at Douglas Corner or wherever. There was just a lot of those things going on. That was a big piece of it. But it really, more than anything, that iron sharpen iron thing, getting out, playing your songs, because trust me when I say, man, your mama's going to love everything you write. Your daddy's going to love everything and they're going to think that you're a superstar when you are not even in the ballpark for that. And so don't love them, but don't trust their opinions. Go out to people who are genuinely digging and are after the greatness of what we do. And so that was a big piece of that, man. But yeah, it started with writers' nights and just humbly following God in the process, man.
That's great. And we even get the question, I want to play writers' nights.
Yeah.
So how did you even start to get on writers' nights?
Well, they had, back in the day, they had them. I haven't done them. I say I haven't done them. Nowadays, it's
That's
a little,
how we met.
It's a little different. Yeah. But so nowadays, it's you basically can email like Ward Gunther over at Whiskey Gin. You just email him, hey dude, Luke Combs did that, and now look where Luke Combs is currently speaking, right?
Used to be you just showed up and you said, when can I play? But now it's actually a little bit more business oriented. You can still show up to most writers' trials, but just try to get that chance.
Yeah, but that's the thing, man. I mean, I think just they're nowadays it's so much easier in regard to you can start a rapport earlier. You can say, here's my songs, and these guys that run like 615 or run, all that. They can go, oh, this dude's really good. He needs to be, or this person needs a little more work. Hey, man, I like what you're doing, but if you maybe dig a little more, that kind of stuff. Because really, ultimately, we don't, even at this point, man, I'm quote unquote a number one songwriter, but I still learn every day. I still dig, and I listen to music way outside of my worlds, man, so that I can just get my palette full of different things, and find a chord progression that I never would have put that together, but I hear it work out there, and then maybe I'd take a little bit of that influence and dig it into some of my favorite whatevers. I get a song idea. It's going to sound really really crazy, but I always try to pair the two most unlikely worlds together, influence wise. Like if it's a whatever it is, I go, what would this sound like if it were Patsy Cline and Metallica?
Yeah.
What would that sound like together? And so, and sometimes it's terrible. Truthfully, sometimes it's super cool and it's like breakthrough kind of stuff, but no risk, no gain, right? So that's where It's where I spend a lot of my world, man.
Well, that's the idea behind the app too for us is that people from like Dubai will be able to geolocate to LA to find a top liner.
Right.
It's going to be insane because you're thinking about how these things can mix, but we're going to legitimately have people who are mixing cultures and music together in a room, which is to be absolutely amazing.
I think what you guys have is amazing, man.
Well, thanks.
I mean,
so what year did you move to town to start?
I moved in I moved in '98 originally.
'98,
and then signed my first deal in 2001 or 2000. Yeah,
great.
And then, but funny thing about that, it fell apart like a year into it. It just dissolved, and the company, it was a crazy thing. So I was like, here I thought, man, I made it. I finally got somewhere. And then it's like, nope, rug out from underneath you, right? So what I did was I just took that as not I took it as a failure, but more as a lesson. Because ultimately, if you can get that skill set down, man, that failing is a good thing. Failing is a lesson. And you just get back up and move forward to learn what you learn. But so then 2 years later, I signed a deal with BMG. And then that started... And that was 2003, and I've had a publishing deal ever since. Had the privilege of having a lot of songs cut by a lot of artists, just solely based on, I think, work ethic and again, that servant mentality. Like, sit in a room and go, hey, man. I mean, I've as an artist, I've had the privilege of doing a lot of, like, Brice. I mean, like, I played a ton of arenas because of Brantley. Like, he just was like, I want you to come out on the road and do these shows with me. And so I would do support, like first up, second up, whatever. And so, but having that, just to say, even being on those stages in arenas, playing in front of 10,000 people, I still look at that as I was in a servant role in that moment. You know what I mean? I don't know how else it's just, I think that's the best way for me personally, because none of this is for us. It's for everybody else. Like, writing is the same way, man. We write a song with Creative Vets, man, and you look at it and you go, this is going to change people's lives. And that's the end game, man. Because ultimately the money's great, the awards are great, but not as cool as the stories you hear about how songs change people's lives.